Hi there, we are back here, and I am the lucky one to introduce you to wonderful, beautiful people. And I will start with Erik Boekesteijn, who I am lucky enough to have met many years ago. And he's such a it's so difficult to present him in few words, as he's everywhere. He's the senior advisor at the National Library at the Netherlands, but he's also a Story House board member. Story House is a wonderful model that maybe he can get to talk to you about just a little bit today in Chester, UK. He's also a consultant for Public Libraries 2020. He is a consultant for IFLA. He is the founding father of Public Libraries 2030, and in just few words, he's wherever there is innovation, you find Erik. And he's also a children's book author and a musician, and he was best librarian in the Netherlands. Yes, and he is on the screen now. He was best librarian in the Netherlands in 2015. But what I have to say about him is that he is the best library friend in all times. And thank you, Erik, for everything that you've done for us and for Occupy Library, because half of the people on the agenda came not because they love us, but because they love Erik. So, Erik, you have the floor, please.
Well, thank you so much, Anka, and it has been an honor and a pleasure. I will take this off. I will start by taking this off, and not all off, but it has been an honor and a pleasure to do this, because I really appreciate you guys, and you're doing an amazing job, and you should be very, very proud of yourselves, and the whole team should be very proud to do this. You already said most of what is to say about me, I think, and I feel blessed and fortunate to know so many great people around the planet, and to be able to work with all those people, to have seen quite a few libraries, and to have helped build quite a few libraries as well all over the planet. Today, I haven't seen Eppo yet. Is Eppo in the room? We're going to talk about, I'm going to talk with Eppo van Nispen tot Sevenaer, my former boss at DOC in Delft in the library. And we want to talk about, well, the progress of libraries over the last 10, 15 years, up to the next coming 10 years, maybe in the future, and the role of new techniques, artificial intelligence, and all that is out there to happen, and which may happen to us much sooner than we expected. I see my great friend here, Mr. Eppo van Nispen, in the room.
Yes, all my friends in Romania and all over the world who's listening and talking and seeing us. Hello, very nice to be here, and I feel very honored to be interviewed. Firstly by Erik, of course, which I know for a long time, and secondly to hope that we both can inspire you a little bit about what we're doing. And so I'm here. Yep.
I've ruined my hair, but well, Eppo, you're here, but to give a short introduction to the many things that you are, of course, nobility. You are close to the king and queen. They are your neighbors. We have to say that. Yeah. But most of all, I know you from becoming our director in the Delft Public Library, DOC, which name came later. And I know you came from television. I know you produced national shows on national television. Yeah. That were shows that, well, it doesn't overrun the cup of culture, I have to say. And I may be so that my grandchildren, I will not tell them to watch the shows. But you did an amazing job at national television. And then you made the decision to come to the Public Library of Delft, and after that we're going to go a little bit through your career during the conversation. You went to the collective propaganda of the Dutch book, believe it or not, we have something in the Netherlands like that. And you're now working at Sound and Vision, Beeld en Geluid in Dutch, in the Netherlands, in Hilversum, the media town of the Netherlands. And you're like recently became the chair, if that's the right word, or even the Kickstarter of the Netherlands Artificial Intelligence Coalition, which we're definitely going to hear much more about. Just to come back to the moment you arrived, I was sitting at this table and we were doing an interview for a new director of the library at that time. And you came in from London, I think it was, in your suit with your case.
Yeah.
What made you decide to take that step in your career, to come from the flashy world of national television, all the celebrities, to come and work in a library?
Well, first of all, I did everything you could do in the line of journalism and television, especially. So I've been the director from big live shows, famous live shows you all know, also in Romania, until I became the chief, together with somebody else, of one of the public broadcasters. Then I went to a commercial broadcaster. I worked abroad for some time, and I was 40, and today I'm 56. Yes, I know. It shows. Yes, it's shocking news. I know. Every day we think of it. No. It's just how young you feel, my ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I was 40, and I really wanted to make a change in my life, and to be really honest, I want to stop working. But to make a not too very long story, but to make a long story short, I actually didn't want to stop working. I would love to use all my knowledge I had at that time, my network I had at that time, to change something really in society, if possible. And then I was looking for where could that be, and then somebody said to me, "Well, just go and try out a public library." And I really started to laugh aloud, like, "Whoa, man, a library, man! That's sorry, but that's the most boring place ever on earth." I was not hating libraries, but was not the first thing I would think of to go to. And I knew from my children that they went there, and for schools, and I went there as a young one. But then somebody really told me about what the public library was about. About, for example, in the Netherlands, we have at this time 1/4 of everyone in the Netherlands is an active member of the library. Has to pay. It's not for free, so people actually find a service that they couldn't find anywhere. And I was triggered by that. And secondly, I have a very nerdy mind, so I was also triggered by the way they were automized. So they had a lot of automation. The book bringing back, and the third one was that they said, well, in Delft, that's a very small town near to Amsterdam. The Netherlands is quite a small country. And they said there's an interesting place. There's a public library, and they're looking for a new director. And that has to be a mix from what's called a discotheque,
music library.
Yeah, music library. I thought it was a discotheque to dance. But I later a normal library and an art center, and I love that. It had to be a merger. They had to go together. Well, it's really what you told me. I went down to have my first conversation, and I came from London. And in my banker suit, which is my good shoes, and we just did an incredible deal for a lot of millions. And then I came out there in Delft, and I saw this. I think it was the most ugly building I ever saw in my life. I called my wife. I said, "Whoa, this is really out of the world." It's so ugly. There were two people standing in front of this building, and I was okay, but they were my board of directors. And the first question they asked, and I thought it quite weird, was that, okay, we have a deficit, a problem with money.
Yes.
And it was about, in this kind of way, 200,000 euros, which is about $300,000. And well, I just came back from a deal with millions. So the first thing I said, sorry, it's not a problem at all. I'll pay it back myself, or in just 2 weeks we'll arrange this to $300,000, €200,000.
And we hired you on the spot at that moment.
Yeah, because every director before me, or everyone who came to solicit on this job, they asked the same question. They were like, "Oh man, this is a problem. Money. Oh, this is a problem. Oh, it's a lot of money. Oh, how am I going to do?" And my biggest, well, there are a lot of lessons in life I've learned, but one of them is, if you're going to worry in the first place about the money, you will never have having the big idea to make big jumps forward. If you would ask Elon Musk if he had a problem about money when he was working on PayPal and all these things, he would never have made these jumps. It's about everyone. So money is, for me, always in the second place. Well, from that on, that was my first conversation, and from that on, I had to talk in a second talk with the people where you were a part of it, and I think it were some around 10 people or so, and I always have the idea that if you spot in the people you have to work with just two or even just one, but at least one, 2, 3, but not more than that. People whose eyes are blinking like click, 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 and inspiring. You can make a lot of jumps and changes. Yeah, well, like this. Yes. So actually, I can do this, of course. And then my face becomes happy too. And from that on, we took it over. I met you, and I think it's one of the most wonderful times I had in my life to really do a change in what's called the boring public library, because it's a place I firstly found you don't want to be found there alive.
Not dead nor alive.
But
Eppo, you set out some goal. I mean, quite soon after you came to the table and you talked to all of the staff members, we were sitting in this was the old building. People have to realize this was not the new dock. If you've ever been to the dock, it's a beautiful library. There was the old building before we moved. That Eppo was talking about, and we were sitting in this downstairs in the hall, in the lobby, and Eppo, you said, I want to build this library into the most modern library in the world. And at that moment, and it was indeed not about money, because at that moment we were like, I think, the third worst paid library in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, libraries are paid by city councils, and city councils decide how much money they want to spend on the library. It's very local. And you said we want to build the most modern library in the world, and he said we're going to bring in that money. We're going to ask for lots of external grants. We're going to try to work it, but we have to realize how we have to change to become that most modern library in the world. What made you set that goal at that moment so high? Was that to lift up? You also said, like, you think you're working very hard. You're not working at all. You're going to work twice as hard. Yeah. But what made you decide to set the goal so high?
Well, firstly, I thought the only way to get out your dreary, difficult life is to set higher goals than you ever can. And it's like the story of Ithaca. I don't know if anyone knows that story, but it's going up for this wonderful island far away, this destination called Ithaca. And important is not so much important is not so much the goal itself, but it's the travel, the adventure you go towards. And if you're going to take a small goal that means a very small travel in a way, you will never learn, you will never fail, you will never get somewhere. So I always set the goals the highest I can. And on the side, I'm not that tall at all. So for me, there's always a lengthy goal. And I think it's important because if you say, I'm going to rebuild or I'm going to do something new, people will never get inspired by something small. Sometimes you're lucky, but you need to convince a lot more people to hang in there. And for sure, if you're a library, when I just worked there, all my friends from my broadcasting period are asking, "You're crazy, man. What are you doing, man? It's such a boring part." And yes, in a way it was. When I was out on a Friday night, and people asked me what I was doing. I was saying, well, I'm a librarian. And then you could see in the eyes of the people there, in their faces, they're saying, okay, man, my only night out, and I'm standing next to the librarian. Like, oh man, this is the most boring part of the evening. And to make yourself being seen and heard, you need to set these bigger goals that are not librarian-like. And I still believe that that's a very important part, because people have a special idea or about how a library works or how it is. And I think they have tremendously changed the last 10 years. You see a massive change in, and that's good they're changing, because our society changes so much in a lot of ways, how we work with our mobile phones. And here we're now having this conference online. 10 years ago, nobody would follow that. And I think that libraries have the capacity, very much so, in getting there to these big goals. So for me, it was obvious to choose for this most modern library in the world. Yeah.
I remember, Eppo, because like you said, I think that image of the librarian is still, people may look at you at first, if they don't know libraries at all, it's a bit of a surprise. But when you tell them what you're really doing and what libraries are doing, they become very interested and enthusiastic, say, wow, you have an amazing job. And that is already stated. What I remember, and I want to see if I can show you a little video, is that one of the lessons that you used to come in and do presentations of 3 hours with 1,000 slides. That it was a bit much. But what I remember very much is that you showed this video of the Fat Man, and I just want to see if I can bring it up there to share with the audience. I have to allow audio here. See if all the technique doesn't fail me. And let's watch the Fat Man, because this had to do with the way as libraries we organize our services, and when we want to improve upon those services, not using the word innovation, but to improve upon our services, you brought in the Fat Man, and I never forgot about it. Should we get started?
Hello? Whoa, it's kicking off, man!
Wait, switch it up. And we're back. Yeah. It worked.
Yeah, it worked. Yeah.
It worked. But let the Fat Man, you have to explain. I mean, I know what you meant with showing the Fat Man and the services, but say it to the people watching you. And people, I want to remind you that please, if you have questions, I'll save some time at the end to. I mean, you don't want to know where this man lives or his telephone number or anything else. But if you have questions for Eppo, please put them in the chat somewhere. And I assume that Anka or someone else will let me know when there's question out there. And I'll make them difficult, and I'll put them to Eppo to answer them at the end, like 15 minutes before we close. Eppo, Fat Man, back to you. Why? What's the Fat Man say to us?
Well, a lot of things. If you look to this video, it's from one of the first seasons of Britain Got Talent in 2011, and almost every country has a program like this. Romania Got Talent, I think, also exists. And what you see, first of all, is that a few things are very important. But the most important thing, when does this video clip, when does this act become really interesting, really groovy, really wonderful? That's not the man only dancing on this Michael Jackson, which he does very perfect, the moonwalk and everyone, and the music. You see on the shots that everyone is thrived. But it starts really on the moment the man, which has my more or less body mass index, when the fat man comes in, and because that really changes the whole clip, because it's like, okay, this man is grooming on stage, and you think, okay, what's happening now, and then he starts to dance. And you cut the clip, and I think it's okay. But if you would look to the end, you will see that this real fat man dances so lightly, with so much fun, and then they synchronize in dancing, and then they end up lying on stage.
Big hugging, yeah.
And that's a very important, because if you have an idea, that's what I want to say. It's not just enough to have this Michael Jackson dance. You have to think of, when does the fat man come in that idea? So when does this idea become more and better than just when there's a surprise? And it has a little bit to do with what I call my F to the 6, if I may, Erik. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
It's a little formula that helps you thinking of, how can I change? How can I make things better? And well, the first one, always think of an idea, and on the moment when the fat man comes in. So the first F is the fat man F. And the second thing, if you want to have a real good idea that works, think of how it works with facts. So if you try to design something for young people, don't come with old ideas. Be on the stage where your young people are. So look to the facts. Where are they? What are they looking for? But then comes the other one part. That's called, in Dutch, we call that Fingerspitzengefühl. But is it like the gut feeling? Does it feel right? Do you have a feeling with it? Finger feeling. That's a little bit what it is. And then the fourth one is FTS. If you have an idea, don't do whatever you want. And I know I'll beep it a little bit, but it means fuck the system. Fuck the system. Beep the system. It's important to design something that is a little bit different, and maybe well more. The best digital platforms haven't been thought out just out of sheer luck. No, they were there because they really tried to fuck the system, the old system. So just do something like that. Then fail. A very important thing is that learn to fail, and the faster you fail, the faster you learn, and the faster you will have a better idea. So fail fast, learn fast. And the last one, and that's why we're wearing, Erik and I, we're wearing these crazy hats or doing these things or having these glasses on, is have the fun part there. If there's no fun in things you do as an idea, nothing happens. So try to make the fun part as twice as better. That's a little bit the theory of the fat man.
Well, Eppo, I think those things really worked, and you sparkled. You lit a fire under that organization, and as some people left, that's always the case. Some people couldn't go along, maybe 1 or 2 or 3, and the rest became extra motivated to help doing that. And well, of course, to brag, we became one of the 25 most modern libraries in the world, and at least the best library in the Netherlands. And we were, at that competition, we were fighting against the OBA, the Amsterdam Public Library, and that was how many times as expensive as ours?
25 times.
And it was like one of the best moments in my life was when we got that award, and I was looking at the Amsterdam. I love this man, Hans van Velzen, but it was so funny to see his face because it was for something. But anyway,
no, it's good. It was funny because it says all about that you don't need a lot of money to be successful in a way. No. I remember, Erik, one of our other successes was that people around the world starting to call us amongst Zaha Hadid. And if you know Zaha Hadid, she's one of the world's best architects.
She's no longer among us, but she was a great architect, yes. Yeah.
And she was like, okay, I have to build a library somewhere in this kind...
In the desert? In the desert?
Saudi Arabia. Can you help me? And I think that was one of the biggest compliments that we could get from the world's greatest architects, just calling this little library that for no cost was being made. And I think being creative, being in a daring way creative, you don't have to be crazy, but enjoy life as it is and having fun. And then you need people like you, Erik, to make this a success.
I went into this conversation with the Zaha Hadid people. My God, I remember it well. But another thing before we leave Doc and we go on is that I remember that one of the things that I think says something about you is that you drove past the IKEA building in Delft. Yeah. And in Delft, we are fortunate to have like an IKEA concept store where they design new products for IKEA. IKEA is all over the world. In Delft, there's this concept store with a special hotel. They bring in people. And you drove by on your way to the library and you said, why not make a library concept center? And you put the name Library Concept on the door above the library. And I think that says something about, we talk about new leadership a lot in just different conferences that are going on at the moment. And I think being as brave as that, and I have to compliment upon that, is that putting the library concept on the door. I think we had 4,000 international visitors after we opened in the first years coming over to see it. And if looking back at it, and I talk too much, we have the Doc 1 in Aarhus, which is not a coincidence that it's called Doc 1. We were designing that library together in a small way years before they built it. And the architect who did the building called herself Doc Architects after that. So coming up with such an idea as a library concept center seems to mean nothing, but actually can lead to quite something impressive.
Well, oh, thank you very much. And I think what it also actually said is it made us flexible, because you say you're a library. People think you will be there for 30, 40 years. And by being a concept library, you are able to change and make it flexible and take all the people who are visiting you in this constantly developing library. And I think that's very important.
You left us broke and in debt to move to Amsterdam.
Of course.
To work for the collective propaganda of the Dutch book, the CPMB. And I think one of the reasons they hired you, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but is that they were looking for a new digital strategy that to implement. It was an old institution, like there are so many, and they it's have to say something that it's being carried out by a cooperative of booksellers, publishers, and libraries, which is quite rare that they work together. So it's a special, highly valued organization. But far from digital transformation at the moment that you arrived. Just briefly, what you spent there? I think 5 to 6, 7 years. I don't know. What were your greatest challenges, and how did you see the progress in that digital transformation take place? 2 questions.
Well, first, of course, yes, the digital transformation, and that's not so much about ebooks, but it's about that people are buying online. And in the Netherlands, we're one of what we call because we have this quite fast internet everywhere, and we had that already for about 10, 12 years ago. People were starting to work online, and what you could see in a book country, which the Netherlands is, that the booksellers had a problem about selling books via their normal bookshops. Same went for libraries. Libraries had the problem that reading was not on our list on the first side, because they were really putting reading on the literature side. Literature, that's important. Literature. And I think reading is for a lot of reasons so important. Without reading, reading is the foundation of our dreams. Reading learns you to become a better human, smarter. And without reading, if you don't learn to read, you can't do math. It's so important. But if you take in a world where entertainment and where mobile digitization is fastly enrolling everywhere, every time, 24/7, with all kind of things that are attractive for youngsters, but also for adults. The first thing we had to do is to get this high literature reading level to what we call a more moderate level, and then learn book sellers that they could sell them online and have a faster learning librarians that being not on this high educated level, but go low, make it fun. And that's where my broadcasting experience was very I could use very much, because we work to have a very big audience, to tell something difficult things for a simple audience. And that's what I learned, and that's what I did with this foundation, to change very much on the focus on bigger markets. And finally, because I started there when the crisis, financial crisis hit the most, so I thought it was a very difficult starting point, but I was really able to change the way they thought, and in the end, they were happy, because they were not only reaching more people, but also selling more books, and thus earning more money. And that's important, I think.
I think it's remarkable that we have seen bookshop sort of disappear and come back with an enormous sort of power, sometimes in a unique way, that the staff who take over, as in Rotterdam, and now they're sort of flourishing again, and actually doing quite well at the moment. So that's a good thing to do. I think what is interesting is also that you came, as you mentioned, you brought your experience and expertise from television to the library, took it with you to a sort of collective, digital, transformative organization promoting the books online, to the Sound and Vision Institute in Hilversum. And before we go into that, for the people who don't know, it's an archive of all the recorded and published, broadcasted material in the Netherlands, as I put it correctly. What is the Institute of Sound and Vision?
Well, the Netherlands Institute of Sound and Vision is kind of a royal library, which we have in a lot of countries, the national library for books. We are more or less the national library for everything that has a moving image or makes sound. But it's much bigger than that. We are the platform, the national platform for the whole broadcasting industry. So about daily, more or less 12% of what you see, for example, all the football, soccer comes from our house. Everything that's just passed away for a second. So we archive and they use it. So if you would pull the plug from our building in Hilversum, there will be 12 to 50% black screen or no noise or whatever. That's the first thing we do. Where if you look at on the world side, we're one of the biggest audiovisual archives in the world, together with INA, that's in France. So we have a lot of petabytes of data. We used to do a lot of scientific research in the way people use media. We have the biggest national program on media literacy. We're rolling out already for years. We have a museum, about 300,000 visitors, which for a library is not much, but for a museum is quite a lot. Where people come, we have an extensive program where we teach children about how media works, and especially then the audiovisual kind of side. We archive the web. We archive a lot of things. We have a lot of fun, I must say. It's we just opened a new museum in The Hague just last week, and that's very special in these times. And I must say, that's what we do. The problem is we do so much that I even think, okay, what are we doing this also?
But you're not doing this alone, and I think that's also quite interesting. As I said, you came from television back to books to media again. How do you see the cooperation? Because that for other countries as well, I think that it's quite interesting to learn how does these different cultural heritage organizations. We have Europeana, which is in The Hague, the headquarters in our building, in the National Library building. How do you see this cooperation? What does it need for corporation to work, to bring all the expertise together and to deliver the best job possible? What's your view on that?
Well, first of all, you need just good people who are open up to work to cooperate something. And then you need to have a focus on your user. It's very important who uses. Who is the user of a library? Who's the user of an archive or a museum or whatever? So the user focus, that's the important. And then you're going to ask, it's very simple. You're going to ask the user, well, what would you like us to do for you? Instead of that you're going to sit somewhere in a room and say, this is what we're going to do. And you try to stuff that somewhere and someone, oh, what in his throat, and this is our product. So I think that's the main focus, is looking to your user. And then you're going to look, because the world is out there, and we have this saying in the Netherlands, I think it's quite a saying, you have a no and you can get a yes for an answer. My personal view is I have a yes and I can get a no for an answer. So
I will not accept a no for an answer.
No. And that means that you have to really make up what you're doing, and you can be so creative in finding new corporations. We work, I think, with a lot of very big, important companies, from Netflix to Disney to small local producers in the Netherlands, to make a new museum at this moment. But just ask and be creative. Don't walk just simply. Don't choose for the simple ways. A lot of people always and don't think of yourself that it's too much work. Erik, we know from the time we worked together in Dell, we had so much fun. And sometimes just asking people or giving the key of the building and say hello, bye-bye. Yeah. I see you the next morning. Just clean up the building. I love the no rules apply. So trust people.
I remember summer camps. We did 3 summer camps. That brought my age up with at least 10 years, I think. But it was quite an experience, having 200 children for a whole week and organizing activities out in the field in the open. For the people who want to know about this, don't do it. Don't do it. But it worked in bringing the library out there. Before we go to the artificial intelligence thing and beyond, I know you had the bus will come by. I know you had the big, hairy, audacious goal, as they call it, at DOC. What is your goal when you started out with the Sound and Vision? Where do you want this Institute for Sound and Vision to be in except for bankrupt, in 5 years? What do you want it to be?
Okay, now we don't want our bankrupt. We just got this million, so we're not that bankrupt today.
Wow, he has €1 million check in his room. Okay.
No. Well, personally, I think the Sound and Vision Institute, because it's an archive for everyone, it's like a platform. I would say people say archives are boring. I say no. Well, what do you think about YouTube? Well, YouTube is cool. And I say, well, I think it's an archive, not more than this. So what I would love to have is that we are building on cultural heritage, and it's very important to know, for our national standpoint of view, what's our identity, where we come from, and where do we go to. I would love, my big, hairy, audacious goal is to see if we can get on a European level, at least. I would love to have that on a world level, but for sure on a national level, that everyone has what we call a single sign login. We have the Netherlands, we have this digital identity, and then you have your mailbox from the government, and that's always boring stuff. There's always stuff you don't really want to read.
You don't want to read, no.
And I say, let us build the fun part of the box. So cultural heritage things, art, and you get your daily single sign-on with your digital identity. And I just spoke with the Ministry of Culture and Science, and they thought it was a good idea. Then I told them what it would cost. Then they thought, okay, it's a good idea, but that's a lot. But we're working on that. So I would love to, because then people can store, if you now, in this digital age where everything more or less is digital born, if you take a picture from your iPhone or your mobile phone, where do you store it? On the phone or somewhere in the cloud. If you die, we see a lot of people forget to give their passwords. So everything they photograph is gone. And I would love to have a place where people can store this forever and save, and they can access, and even if they want to share it with the world in a way that Facebook or any other platform doesn't. So we call this a public space part, and that's what I'm working on.
I know we have to see each other more often, Eppo, and talk about this over a good glass of beer. Before we go to the artificial intelligence bit, you sent me a video, and I want to see if I can get it to play again on artificial intelligence in general. Let me see, audio, Chrome. Where is it? This one. See if it works.
100,000 BC, stone tools. 4,000 BC, the wheel. 9th century AD, gunpowder. 19th century, Eureka, the light bulb. 20th century, the automobile, television, nuclear weapons.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave.
Everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use.
People want their technology to have a sense of humanity. They want it to understand me, you specifically.
We have 3 billion new minds coming online to work with us to solve the grand challenges. The rate at which the technology is getting faster is itself getting faster, to a point that we have the potential to create a world of abundance.
And there it stops. Okay.
Well, to create a world of abundance, it's about today. I think everyone, there's nobody who hasn't got a mobile phone. I think we're now at the rate of 92% worldwide. So even very poor people have a mobile phone, and it connects us. It brings a lot of us. And we're starting at the next level of artificial intelligence, of trying to help us. That's what artificial intelligence is about, is trying to make human tasks, simple human tasks, to take over or as a help. And then you as a human can do other tasks which the artificial intelligence can't do. I think it's very important to know that this has a massive influence on how our daily life is. It has already had, and it will have in future time. And it's not something from today. The first years of developing artificial intelligence are really, really long time ago. So it became a hype. And with faster computers, faster connections, for example, the 5G networks that are coming there will be the Internet of Things. There will be a lot of questions about how will we cope with that. And I think there's an important role for libraries in this age of artificial intelligence to show people, to make them what we call the information literacy, which always has been there, but to help them maybe buy artificial intelligence, but at least explain how it works, why we have these filter bubbles, why today, if you look to the Trump presidency, the election that is coming in America, there's a lot of interesting things going on, and especially on the part of information. And I think that libraries are the perfect places to test and to roll out and to take and to make people more beware and literate about how these things work. And they are an extreme attractive partner in this way. I know, for example, there is a program in Romania for the Repatriate program. Well, you can use, because a lot of people go out Romania because they can earn money more outside Romania itself. But that's an enormous leakage of good personnel, libraries can work on keeping people more literate, more understanding, more stronger in knowledge when it comes up these things. And in the old days, when the internet came up, librarians started to, okay, we have the internet, we're going to catalog it more or less. That's what they know. Let's catalog the internet. Well, that was really a wrong step to make. In this way, I hope that libraries are able to understand really what artificial intelligence and how they can use it for their benefit, and also for their branding and who they are and what positions they have in society.
But Eppo, I remember. Hey, I have an echo. Where does my echo come from? It's gone. I remember that. It's back.
Yeah. I see. May I say something? I'm looking in the chat. We haven't answered any of the questions that's being asked. Now, there are not so many questions, but I see people from Brazil, from Ireland. I see Maria Oostergaard from Denmark. I see them from all over the world. That's great.
But I don't see the same chat.
Yeah, because you are looking probably.
No, I didn't want to intervene so far.
Yeah.
Erik, maybe you have a new window that's open and you need to close it. I'm just trying, to solve. So I will start with a comment which I found very inspiring, coming from Ramune. Ramune tells us that maybe we need to be documented and promoted among 40s high achievers going through their midlife career crisis and looking for meaningful changes. So probably we should, promote library as an option of changing lives through professionals like Eppos that got tired of broadcasting and they want a career in librarianship. So that's that's maybe the time to change. Yes, and Susanna Silvestre asks, Eppos, how do you engage with your team in F6 theory?
In what theory? In the F theory. Oh, that's easy. Well, the first part is the last one I showed. If you make fun of, and I don't make fun of somebody, but do it in a good way. The first thing I always ask, what would you do? Normally, a lot of libraries are quite hierarchical, you see? So the boss sits there and going to think of a great idea, and anyone, because he or she is the boss, says, oh, that's a great idea. But what I always do, I'm not the boss, I'm just trying to be the team inspirer. So I ask the team, are there any problems? And if so, what are the problems for now? And what are the problems for the future? Where do we want to go to? And that's what I'm doing. I've learned that from our great friends from Aarhus in Denmark, where they use the user-driven innovation type a lot. And I think that's librarians working in a library are also users. They're using their library. So if you ask your users, why don't you ask the ones that use the library too in a professional way? It's very simple. That's what I do. And I spent some time on it to make this change. And the second important thing, not everyone has to change. If you say, and everyone has to change, there are always people who are skeptical about what you're doing. And you can imagine that somebody like me was coming in the library first in Delft. And luckily there were people like Erik, but there were also people opposing very much in what we were doing. But they were laughing. We were saying, after 4 months, we're going to build the most modern library in the world. You can imagine that if you're a librarian working there for 25 years in the most ugly building ever, you say, man, these people are crazy. But the important part is saying, okay, but it's okay that you think we're crazy, but have the respect that we try to change something. So if we fail, don't laugh with us. Don't say, yes, I told you so, I told you so. No, because we'll fail again, and we'll fail again, we'll fail again and again and again until we succeed. And that's, I think, if you ask that respect, people are more likely to go with the change. And don't fret them saying, well, if you don't change, I'm going to throw you out or something like that. That doesn't work. And I must say that that helped me. When I worked for this book foundation, it was a little bit more. Well, these were Amsterdam people. They're known in the Netherlands as being more arrogant. So they were like, no, we're from the literature. We're from the literature. You're not going to change us. We like just read books. And I said, well, I'm a librarian. But I said, if you don't change, I said, what will happen? Because this system, what you thought out, doesn't work that well. And they said, yes. Well, they will probably get fired because there's no job more. I said, well, so let's work on some chances for a new job or whatever. And that helps also a lot. So, yeah. And keep smiling. The fun part is enormous important. Fun and fail. That is...
Fun and fail.
Yeah.
But don't fail to have fun. So go on, guys. I will take more questions to you. But
yes, please. Is it solved now?
Appear and disappear. So.
Okay. Well, for me, I have no ego here, but I think that's important, Erik. I mean, you were there. What do you think when I came in? What do you think? You were completely lost, or?
Well, I was at that time. I was the head of the. Can you hear me now? Or not?
Yeah, very perfect.
Okay. At that time, I was working. I was a musician. I was a very happy man working 25 hours a week in the music library, and in the weekend I was reaching out to my millions of. Oh no, there were a couple of hundred fans maybe, making music, and then you came in and you ruined my life. No.
Happily.
You showed me. You inspired me. You said, and we said. I think we my colleague Jaap van der Geer and I get back to you and said we want to. If we want to build the best library in the world, we need to travel the world and make sure that we know everything that's going on out there and bring it back to the Netherlands. And we started out for I think 4 years of traveling. Relationships broken, everything in ruin, but we got to know so many people, and we met inspiring librarians, and we saw that librarians were very much alive. We went through the United States, from Australia to Jamaica, you name it. We went everywhere and brought it all back. And you said, "Go," which we're still very grateful for you to allowing. And that's not only me or Jaap, but to allowing staff with ideas to come up and make it happen and take responsibility. Because I think that's what I always say. I said, if you want to change things, you have to do it yourself, and it doesn't stop in a 40-hour work week. You have to be prepared to go for it and really to not stop before it happens. You have to really be passionately involved. But I want to go a little back because time flies, and there must be thousands of questions out there from all over the world. And back to AI. You are sort of pushing the cultural sector to use artificial intelligence for their future, and this new initiative, the NLAIC, the Netherlands Artificial Intelligence Coalition. Can you tell the audience a little bit what it is and what it is setting out to do?
Well, the coalition itself goes about a lot of money. We're talking about billions here. And normally, if you look to the cultural world, is not engaged in these artificial intelligence development. It's always a smart city. Well, you can name it whatever you want. In Netherlands, we have this saying that culture always costs money. And I always stress to the people I talk to that culture just thrives a lot of inspiration and have enormous economic power. And you could see this in the last few months of this horrible COVID crisis, when a lot of the producers, big artists that were making a lot of money, they couldn't go out, and that's international, having a field theater or doing big shows or other things. So there was a lot of money getting lost in this way. And people were looking for new ways of distribution because they found out that all went, for example, via the American platforms like YouTube, and the return on investment, what they put in YouTube was very small. So from an economical point of view, it's very important to have a strong cultural presence. And for sure, in these technical environments like the development of AI. So what we're doing there is bringing in all the big cultural partners. These are the broadcasters. You can name it. All the newspaper companies, media companies, very big media companies, and
libraries.
theaters. Yeah, libraries, but also libraries. Libraries are extremely, people forget that, but they're extremely automated, and they have a floor of people, a bunch of people every day coming there. So if you want to test things, if that works, I know that we worked in Delft very fast with our near field RFID chips. That was relatively very new. Today it's normal, but then at that time, I think it was now probably it's 15 years ago. That was really new, really state of the art, and we're now on the brink of really changes in how to cope with this. So that culture part is built on 4 pillars. That's called inspiration. How can we inspire each other by artificial? How can we make a better production? So production systems, the way you make things. Very important is the distribution. So what kind of network we use to distribute our platforms. And the last one's called reception. How does the user perceive things? And remember, Netflix is a cultural company. It's like they're selling movies or series, but it's a cultural creative thing. So it's important to be there. And I would stress again, as a public library, get a part in this discussion about AI. Firstly, just to explain people what it is, what algorithms do. Secondly, try to get a position in it. I think it's important because otherwise you're always at the end of the development of things happening. And I've learned in the 5 years that I work with libraries and still do in a lot of ways, they are a massive organization that really can change if they want to and help at the lowest side of society people to get their heads up in technical developments.
Eppo.
Am I clear? Am I clear?
I still have the echo or not? No, not anymore. Listening to you, I think important. We can go into some of examples, and maybe we show one example in the end. But I think that we have been working for years in libraries as well to sort of get to know. We know what people read. We know their taste. So we try to make like advices like Amazon as personal as possible, and try to have like the 4 or 5 best read, the Wereld Draait Door, it's a television promoted books. So everybody was supposed to read the same thing, or you stay within your own bubble. And for me, AI is very much important in the discussion. Do we create even bigger filter bubbles to customize sort of tastes, or do we use AI also to create the serendipity that keeps us curious the rest of our lives, and that makes us want to develop and learn and be better human beings once again? What is your take on that?
Well, my take on that is that AI should help to enhance your life, not to take over your life, but to enhance dull tasks that you don't want to spend time, so you can spend time on other inspirational things or things you like. Thus said, it means also that I think you should make algorithms that gives you this serendipity more than instead of them. So I'm extremely against filter bubbles, but I think that's now these days quite common to be so. But it wasn't that way. It was like the clickbaits. Just having Facebook was completely built. And there's now on Netflix this documentary called The Social Dilemma.
Yes.
I would suggest anyone to watch that, because these were former people working for all these big tech platforms. And the difficult thing is, what I think is, when it comes up this artificial intelligence, that's a lot coming from China and the United States. And I think maybe we're building here in the Netherlands with some other countries, we call this public spaces. And these are, platforms that are, there's no government, there's no, let's say that's the internet 4.0 we're trying to build.
And when you build that, we have to consider that. I remember last year we did a college, a KB college, a National Library College, on artificial intelligence, and I had Kriti Sharma from the UK, one of the 30 young rising stars, and she said she founded AI for Good, and she gave the example of bias. So, for instance, you look for Indian women in India on artificial intelligence. There's a few Bollywood actresses, and that's it. There's no information, no data on women in those countries. How do you, we're talking from a cultural sector's perspective, how do we want to bring, which is quite elite, as you already pointed out, how do we bring less bias and more data on people, that they recognize themselves in the AI that we are building?
That's one of the biggest challenges from today. As even from somebody from Delft or Amsterdam or Rotterdam, or somebody from Bucharest or Aarhus or Lyon, they have complete different ideas about how lives are. That's culturally the way we that's why I think it's very important to study social and cultural anthropology to understand these biases. But if we do understand them, you can really make things better. And for now, it's as I tell you, we are really working on. If we, for example, run down a face recognition artificial intelligence around our audiovisual archive of 46 petabytes, that's a massive data. But you will find out that this machine learning system will find out that there are only white people there instead of other colors, because we changed over the last 20, 30 years more than before. So we need to find out that these biases, what are they, and in what way do they influence us? And I think also libraries can play an important role there. The wonderful thing of a library is there are still physical buildings in a lot of ways, and they can do a lot of fun. And if it doesn't work, then we shoot.
That is always a good idea. I see Anka coming up. I have one more question for the end about, and I don't want to forget it. It's about the future of journalism, because that's something that comes. I'm like a sort of a radar that everything lands on this desk. And journalism is something that over the last year is landing on my desk all the time, and questions on the future of journalism and the role of libraries in the information stream. But I hand over to Anka for a second, but no doubt there must be questions from the audience, and I would like to recognize the audience as well and give them a chance to talk.
I would say that it's more comments and compliments, which I will leave you guys to enjoy after we finish the session. But coming back to the part of the world that's not that lucky, we have this great comment from Gamze, who says that I am working in a university library in Turkey. Even in this age, some sources are censored, not included in the collection. There is a shortage of access to up-to-date resources due to budget deficit and procedures in the process. And then a related question coming from Israel, from Marietta. How do we reduce the gap between the developed countries and the less developed ones? I worked before in Egypt and now in Israel, and there's a big difference between the two in the library scene. So your takes on that, Eppo, Erik?
We started this conversation more or less from, it's not about money, but of course there's always a part where money comes in. Also apart from how politics are in some countries. Libraries are always at the end most of the times when people decide, and libraries are being seen as, okay, they're spaces that are necessary, but not seen in a lot of countries as something they can invest in. Because there's for sure in developed countries a lot of other things there should be invested in. So libraries are always at the end. what can you do about it? Actually, I worked with a library, for example, in Nicaragua. And what we did there was framing also the library different and learn to be not dependent on the budget of the government, but try to see if you can make everyone a little donation with your locals and with companies. And that led to building a real new library in there. And then, because it became something really new, the government wanted to pay more money, so they hooked up in the letter. I don't know. I know that in Egypt, it's, for example, there is also a political problem, I think, and for Turkey, apart from the budget, there is of course censorship and there's also a lack of really wanting to invest in libraries. And there's always that danger in economical times. And for now with COVID, all these governments have to get people alive, and well, then the library comes on the last. So I always focus not on the government. For example, the last one I'm going to ask is my basic founder, for example. I always look out, because then you can be more independent, and maybe that helps to work with some organizations. But I know it's a very, very very difficult thing, and maybe that's something I would like to do over 5 years, trying to see if Erik and I can even change and help the developed countries and make the difference between them and the ones the less developed countries much more when it comes up to libraries, because they are a thriving oasis of knowledge and people.
And if I may add, because Eppo is completely right, and I would love to join him in that, from my island in Ireland, where I'm drinking beer and playing guitar, I would love to join you. But what I noticed when I was traveling around the world, and when I was in the jungle in Jamaica or in Stewart Island, and had the Wi-Fi switched on from Christchurch, I mean, the human capital is amazing in libraries and museums, and I think there's such passionate people. I remember in Jamaica, as I mentioned, in the jungle, there were like donated from Japan, I think, a bus with 2 mobile internet computers, access laptops, and the kids were, they didn't have anything, but they were standing in line in front of the bus to get on their Facebook. And is Facebook that important? Maybe not, but it's an access point to the rest of the world. And I think we should become better in sharing knowledge without making profits. I know there's some great companies building libraries, software and tools that are absolutely doing amazing jobs. But from all the experience at Eppo, you're getting in the next coming years with the AI coalition, in the Netherlands, the knowledge that comes out of the single sign-on, once we get that covered out, if we get the public spaces figured out, we should be willing to share that and bring it to other countries who need it. And we should find ways to be more global in this. That's my point of view, at least.
Please put Romania on the list, because we are so much in need in know-how when it comes to fundraising. It's such a huge gap to skip over, from a librarian to fundraiser. It's a completely different thing. So people, don't forget, we only have 7 minutes more with
if you have a question.
Wonderful, smart man. So questions, please.
I will go to my question to Eppo first. Like Eppo journalism, as I said, people are like overfed with news, fake news. They don't know what to believe anymore, and what we notice is that they're turning away from it. They say like, okay, I'm no longer going to listen. It makes me depressed. I don't recognize myself in what's being said. I don't know if I'm manipulated, and I am manipulated. How do you? And as more and more people listen to each other, there's sort of groups locally forming that have opinions about things. How do you see the future of journalism? What will happen to our newspapers, and how do libraries respond to that process? It's a difficult question, but I'm just curious about your thoughts on this.
Oh, that's an extensive question.
You have 7 minutes.
What would I say? Now maybe I can give maybe I can up. We have 7 minutes. In a way that, I can see this on the comments. People say, but you a lot of times see, and I know this because you can sit down on the ground and let things come over you, and see what's happening, and you can be more proactive. Because what Anka said, yes, we don't have fundraisers. Yes, it's a completely different job. But then again, if you don't take the adventure of becoming a fundraiser yourself, trying, that's the Ithaca route. Try to build this most modern library. Take this away. Take the challenges. Don't. What people really hate, I know, from libraries is that, okay, if they don't know exactly what a library is about, they say, these are nice but boring people, and then they come on and they are coming asking for money, and they come asking for boring things. Try to be really different in a way. So get this fundraiser or learn to be. There are a lot of online courses how to be a fundraiser. But the biggest way to raise your funds is to show inspiring energy. Do things you wouldn't do or you wouldn't do easily. Break out. Revolution starts at the bottom, just at the 1 square meter. That's where it starts. And yes, there are a lot of politicians that are not in favor of libraries. But who cares? Who gives a damn? If you got a place where people can stay and drink and eat, and you can inspire and you can read beautiful poetry or just literature or just simple things, and there's an internet connection, start from there. Build that out.
Yeah.
Make everything nice and smooth and happy.
And Eppo, while you were talking, and I was thinking about Storyhouse in the UK, where indeed I spent some of my time. I think the change there was brought about by the idea that librarians are curators of curiosity. We want people to be curious. We want people to be critical thinkers. We want the people to leave the building with questions, not with answers. They should have more questions when they leave the building than when they came in, and they should be happy with, I got a question, and I want to figure it out. And when they do that, they will be their own judges. They will learn to be critical thinkers, and they will do it. There is 3 minutes left. I have the video of the painting AI robots, which is I think is special because it shows the beauty that AI can do. But there's a little time, and we also want to do something with
I would choose
the inspire. You would choose Invictus or not?
Well,
I leave it to you.
Yeah, the AI part painting thing is freaky and fine, and it's just a simple AI showing that it can paint a human being in different ways.
Shall we go to Mandela or not?
Yeah, I would love to go there because I think the best thing you told yourself, the Storyhouse is a good formula. Curators of curiosity, putting people to think. And just a little bit more, and that's now the big difference between AI and a human person. Just in Bibo, in life, is that the human person is able to feel, to have enough sense to make you move because you're there, you're in a conversation. And I know in COVID it's more difficult. It's in the Netherlands 1.5 meter distance, but still you're able to curate in a good way and to take people along. Now, you showed me, that's why I would like to go to Mandela, because if I show you this picture and I ask you, do you know these two people? Everyone knows the right one and says, yes, that's Nelson Mandela, but nobody knows the left one. And the left one is William Ernest Henley. He was a British poet. And he wrote an extreme important poem that kept Mandela, when he was on his Robben Island capture, he read this every day aloud, and it was the poem Invictus. And why I'm going to read this aloud for you, I love to do it, is because of the reason that it's about who is in control. Now we talked about it's politicians or whatever. No, in the end of the day, and in the beginning of the day, and you are as a person in control. And this guy, William Ernest Henley, wrote this wonderful poem, and I'm going to say it out loud to you. And I hope, listen to the last 2 sentences. That's about, I think it says it all, and it kept Mandela strong. And I always tell this to young people, and then they find the power of poetry, for example, like not in a rap, but just in an old strong poem. Invictus. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, nor how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And I wish this to every library. Be your master of your fate, the captain of your soul. And then anything you think up, you will get there. I'm pretty sure. Phil, fun, fact, fat, finger, and FTS.
My dear friend, thank you so much. And like I said, we are boring for hours if we want to, but this was really fun to do. And I'm gonna give it back to Anka, because no doubt there's some household things to say. For all the questions that we didn't answer, please phone Eppo, and it'll all be okay.